By the time you see this, I will be on vacation visiting family, so forgive me if my responses are a little slower than normal. And I can't think of a preamble to put in front of this one outside of that, so it's Studio Series Transformers 1 Starscream. But first, your likes! Please give and maybe subscribe. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm the only person on Earth who doesn't want to put Starscream into a jar.
You can't keep me in here, everyone!
First up, before people get the wrong idea again, thank you to my good friend Belfed for providing his excellent voice talents to this video. He also did the High Moon Megatron voice in my Tyrantron Rise video. Anyways, fortunately, I haven't seen as many people thirst for this version of the character. Maybe the design just works less for people than it does normally. Or maybe it's the fact that when I saw that Steve Buscemi was cast as Starscream, I was like, that's a genius fucking idea! And then I heard it and I was incredibly disappointed. I don't know if Steve Buscemi is too old to play the character at this point, or to just voice act in general. He's had a lot of voice roles in the past, so I don't think it's just that he's unused to this style of acting. But he was the only character in the movie who wasn't selling it. And why is it that he stole Soundwave's digitized voice bit? Did they just, forget who they were writing for?
Oh, how it pains me to talk like this.
You know what? I can answer that question. They absolutely did. Ah yes, Starscream, the guy who's not afraid of getting choked to death, but is afraid of getting shot to death. Starscream, the brave warrior known for being super loyal to Megatron, who will instantly do what he asks and jump to his defense. Starscream, the guy who will run away from a single enemy when they have the numerical advantage, but will still find a way to get himself caught. You know what? That last one does actually sound like him.
Fuck you pointy shockwave wannabe!
Anyways, this is a great representation of the most confusing version of Starscream, though he suffers from the same thing that all the Transformers 1 figures did, a desperate lack of shininess. No matter what, without the gleaming chrome clinging to every inch of these things, they just look lesser, and for some reason, it uniquely negatively affects Starscream here. The off-gray, the muted blue, the tired burgundy. This looks like Starscream if he came out of the beige 70s. This is Leisure Suit Starscream, and boy does that drag down the vibe, which, let's be honest, would otherwise be pretty strong. There isn't a ton of paint here, but they did save it for where it would have the maximum impact, and they did a ton with the plastics to give him some real color breakup. I don't know that I'll ever be down for the red cockpit look, but that's not this thing's fault, and the insides of the forearms are pretty hollow, but basically in every other way, this looks really good. He's pretty clean with something of a backpack, but it's a fairly reasonable one, especially considering all this has to do. The proportions are accurate, his legs are very rectangular, which makes me happy. He's also not small for a deluxe, cutting a good presence, though the scale of the figures from this line is all over the place, so don't expect this to be one-to-one movie accurate. Null rays look a little wimpy, but they're fine, and it was a really interesting choice of the movie to give him big pauldrons. Not a style typically associated with Starscream, but one that I think fits nicely. Gives you some options that really change up the energy he's coming at you with. Kind of like little personality detectors. Is he angry? Is he sad? Is he shocked? His quality control is fantastic, at least on mine, with every joint feeling great, and there are no serious flaws that I can find in this robot mode in general. And he balances quite well. I've not really had this dude fall over anytime I've set him down normally, though that might change now that I've been filming him. It's honestly impressive that he's so stable, because this is potentially the highest on his toes I've ever seen him stand. This is one of the least girlish Starscream designs, and he's got some of the most extreme stripper heels of any version of him.
Do not mock the footwear of a true warrior!
Warrior of the Night, more like. And you know what? If I wanted to mock something, I'd mock that face. This is one of those instances where it feels like Hasbro gave the sculpting duties to a homeless guy they found outside the office digging through their trash. From a distance, it almost looks okay, but get too close and suddenly it looks like Starscream has had way too much plastic surgery. Bro's got a facelift and some Botox and some lip fillers, maybe some kind of horrible nightmare procedure where they tried to make his mouth as small as animated Optimus is in the world's stupidest arms race.
Am I beautiful yet?
So the look and the quality control of this mode are great, and I think I might have even undersold it. I found that the studio series for this line is kind of bordered on being trash. Optimus and Bumblebee were worse than their Prime Changer figures, Megatron was a half-hearted mess, Sentinel was uninspiring, and I'm hearing really bad things about Alita. However, this so far has worked in all the ways that the others don't. It is the best feeling, it's the best looking, it's probably the best painted and the most accurate. I mean, the only really awful thing about this guy is the face. Like, you know it's bad when the entire community starts complaining about a feature before I have the chance to. Why y'all stealing my shtick? So far, this is the first of the studio series for this line that I've not immediately put in a drawer and never looked back on, though the accessories are tempting me to do that. I don't count the null rays as accessories. Those are just part of Starscream's body, and they will never come off. So basically, he just has this ugly-ass gun, which for some reason you are supposed to turn into an even more ugly-ass gun by parts forming part of the backpack off and combining it with this. It is a truly impressive achievement how much this does not help. Oh wow, it's a really fake-looking ugly bad gun glued to a 2x4. Whatever will I do now? That weapon must be devastating. Yeah, it's pretty much just this stupid thing that old Screamer here comes with, and honestly, you don't need it. He's got his null rays, why bother with this? Posability is somewhat disappointing. Head has a good amount of tilt down and an extreme fake up. This part is important for a flyer at least. Shoulders pull in 90 and can be faked for whatever more you need. Solidly better than 90 elbows. No wrists, no waist. Hips are unimpeded forwards, barely impeded out to the sides, and relatively impeded back. Extreme knees, and you can fake a heel up, but otherwise basically no foot articulation. So this is missing quite a few bread and butter joints. Like no ankles, a Starscream that doesn't even have Narcissus? What kind of sin is that? And no waist?
Fool! I never had a waist even back in G1!
1. That's just flat out incorrect. People say that all the time, but you do at several points see him and the other Seekers rotate at the waist. And 2, you definitely see Starscream in this movie bend at the waist, so don't even try to use that tired defense. The only thing that's keeping me from really crying foul super hard on this thing is that the joints that remain tend to have way better than average articulation. This means that there are fewer poses that you can put him into, but the ones that look good do look really dynamic. But seriously, they easily could have fit in rotations at the hands and pivots at the ankles. Still, at least the transformation is really good, though at least a bit confusing, especially going back into robot mode, to the point where you can see that in this promotional picture that they have his chest transformed wrong, because that's a really easy series of steps to get out of order, and if you don't do them just right, you have to go back a pretty good way in the transformation to get there to fix it. There are a few pieces that are also rather fond of popping off during his conversion, but I'll be honest, they don't bother me a lot because this thing is doing so much and so interestingly. Like, most of the parts that move here don't move the way that you think they will. Every wheel that they could was reinvented, and it makes for an interesting conversion. That also leads to probably the best and most stable alt mode of the Studio Series figures for this movie yet. I do find it hilarious, however, that this is basically the exact same Tetrajet that the Bumblebee Starscream turned into, but I don't think that any of the Seekers turned into this thing in the movie. Of the few shots we get, it's all either very different from this or the Coneheads, and they're turning into what looks like their normal Earth modes. Not that I'm complaining. This is a way better version of this design than was on the Bumblebee figure. It's cool and sleek, and it looks way more like an actual vehicle that would be made than the G1 version, while still retaining those Tetrajet vibes, though I suppose it does make it look way less alien. Hilariously, despite the fact that this thing is smaller than the Bumblebee version, just being about the size of a Deluxe instead of a Voyager, the bottom side blaster is way more aggressive, being like this centralized glut of guns pointing forwards. Like, this is less F-15 in space and more like an alien A-10 Warthog. Plus, he's got a full complement of missiles along the sides. Honestly, this thing is so well armed it makes me wonder how the High Guard seriously lost to Sentinels Genericons. Huh. How have they never released versions of those guys that you can buy yet? Seems like the first thing they do, since everyone who wanted one would pick up like 3. In any instance, this is an excellent version of this alt mode, and as I alluded to earlier, definitely the best figure to come out of the Studio Series for Transformers 1. His worst quality is just his posability, which has some really good points. If they just hadn't allowed for the wrists and feet to be missing joints almost every other figure gets, then there wouldn't be any downside, and everything would be better than average. Basically, unlike any other figure to come out of this movie, this is a solidly built, mostly good-looking, accurate version of him. People tend to give the Megatron a lot of credit. I don't think it was due. It was a multiple parts former that had the backpack pop off at every opportunity and didn't feel remotely as solid as this.
Of course I'm superior to Megatron and those auto fools! This is why I, Starscream, am the rightful leader! All will praise.
However, his face is really ugly if you pay too
doing?
much attention to
What do
it.
you think
Starscream
you're
had that
doing?
body dysmorphia, and he just told the plastic surgeon to fuck his life up, fam. But keep your distance, and that fades into a smear that you can tolerate. And the alt mode is great. Plus, the transformation feels truly unique. It doesn't have a fake cockpit, and it even folds the nose cone into the chest instead of sticking across the back. Not quite the same way that I always say they should, but close enough like it that I will gladly take it. This is the first Studio Series figure from Transformers 1 that I am glad to have. A solid B+ figure. And before we go, let's thank a channel backer. And this time it's Dr. Doogie with Siege Skywarp. And I just about had a heart attack seeing that come up on the wheel, because I thought for a second time this week I was going to be talking about Skyfire. You had to put down one of those rare figures, huh? I could only get one of these thanks to my awesome friend Shockwave custom painting one for me. I think his is a bit nicer than the actual thing, but that's not a knock against this. It was an excellent figure, and a lot of people feel like he's got the best Echo of the Seekers, and it's hard to argue with them. A very good pick, and that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know, you know, what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.